has been lost. Enemy shot deflected.
Hey guys, it's OD here, and in this video I will be reviewing a new indie game called Into the Stars. At first glance, this could easily be written off as a flashier FTL. Under closer inspection though, you'll be able to notice a much simpler game hidden under this beautiful presentation, at least for this genre. Let's start off with the story then. The idea behind it is that you're humanity's last hope for survival. You'll be playing as the captain of the Ark-13, a ship carrying 10,000 civilians, flying through the game's 90 different sectors, trying to reach Titus Nova, the closest habitable planet, all this while running away from the Scorn, a deadly alien race which likes to exterminate other races for sport. You'll be exploring planets, wreckages, interacting with traders, friendly or hostile, trying to manage your resources in order to keep your crew and the ship's population alive, resolving different ship incidents. The world is semi-dynamic, since the planets will always be in the same place, while the rest of the systems will be randomized. You start off by picking a captain with one of 4 traits, which, depending on the style of gameplay you prefer, can offer a better combat experience, a trading one, or a more luck-based one. After that, you can select the different ship modules you'll want to use, which can make for some interesting combinations. There are ups and downs for mixing up the choices, starting with the credit cost, since you have a limited budget, to the actual resources they'll end up using. You can then select the amount of resources to start your mission with, as well as the crew to take along with you on this mission. They have various stats, which will affect their different interactions with the many areas of the game. Each of the stats is explained in the crew selection menu, giving the player a pretty good idea of what he should expect. For example, engineering will buff the player's chance to hit the enemy ships during combat, whereas the command skill will allow for longer shield duration. Later on, successfully completing events relating to their assignments will also upgrade their skill by 1 or 2 points every time. You then start off in the first sector, ready to make your way towards Titus Nova and save humanity. The game's urgency feeling is created by many combined factors, but the basic mechanic is the threat level. The more time the player spends in a sector, the higher the threat level gets. It will start off at none, then yellow, then orange, and finally red. Depending on the threat level, there will be a higher chance the game will throw more and harder enemies at you. In order to maintain the ship's resources, which will be depleted by both flying the ship, having ship incidents occur, and having both the life support and food supply systems online, the player will have to interact with planets and play a series of minigames. The mining rig minigame consists of a little fun distraction in which you can collect the resources you need most while trying to avoid the red blocks, which will damage or destroy your rig directly. The resource probe is a faster and easier way of getting resources, downside being the fact that you can't get as many as with the mining minigame. Keep in mind that in all this time the threat level of the current sector keeps increasing, so there is a good balance between feeling pressured to leave the planet and getting enough resources until the next stop. The shuttle missions can reward the player with some interesting replacement modules, while others can be quite disappointing, ranging from side grades to completely useless. I mean, what's an engine module running on nitrogen going to help me with if I didn't even bother adding up nitrogen at the beginning of the game, since it made no sense with the rest of the setup. Problem here would be the fact that you're unable to save modules up for later use. It's either replace now or forget about it. At times, it felt more like a disappointing gamble, especially considering the fact that you can lose crew members pretty easy on these planetary missions if they fail. Other rewards the players can obtain are red and blue enhancement items, which you can then later use on the ship's modules. These can also be acquired from defeating enemy ships. Currently, the blue one doesn't do much, whereas the red one actually is a bit too powerful maybe. It feels rewarding reducing the life support system or engine cost to almost zero, or using them on different weapon systems and noticing way faster recharge times in combat. Combat is quite fun as well, but tends to get a bit repetitive. The main idea behind it is that the enemies can vary their shield colors, or frequencies as the game calls them, and the player is supposed to hit them with a different color in order to do damage to them. Contrary to this, in order for the player to deflect enemy projectiles, he needs to match their weapon's frequency or color. The main problem here is that there's only 2 enemy types, or 4 if you count the fact that each has a version of itself that has more HP. So after a few encounters with said enemies, you'll already know what to expect for the most part. You can also choose how to deal with them, whether you want to take their shields down to do more damage and not have to deal with the shield mechanic, or pacify them by destroying their weapons, or simply firing at the hull until their HP reaches 0. Keep in mind that those systems will come back online at some point if they're not focused fire occasionally. During combat, your ship as well as its individual modules will take damage. These can be fixed by using repair parts, also found as rewards after combat, or by doing different shuttle missions. The last mechanic I want to talk about is the ship incidents. These will happen randomly and can be of various types, such as medical emergencies killing off your civilian population, or engineering ones destroying random modules on your ship. Here in the crew ship screen, you can also heal up your injured crew members, either from unsuccessful landings, mission incidents, or combat, by dragging them to the sickbay. Keep in mind though that while a crew member is either on a ship incident task or in the sickbay, he cannot be selected for combat. So you'll have to be wary in assigning too many while having a high threat level, because you might be forced into combat and have no crew to assign to the ship's weapons, systems, or shields, creating pretty awkward situations which will most likely end up in a trip to the main menu. The save game function works just like with any other roguelike games. The player only has one save slot available to basically save and quit the game in case he wants to resume at a later time. Any mistakes, however, will carry on until the end of that particular session. In the case of victory, the player will be presented with a summary of his actions, which will amount to a final score and a general grade. This could push players to experiment with different routes on their next playthroughs in the hopes of achieving a higher score. Now let's talk about the graphics. This is easily the best looking game of its genre. It's using the Unreal 4 engine tech, and while it has some minor flaws here and there, overall the presentation is gorgeous. Starting off with the great backgrounds, special effects, ship details, and atmospheric lighting. Performance is up there as well, working great on even low spec hardware as long as you're willing to drop some settings down. Game is missing the 1600 by 900 resolution though, which I found quite odd since there's plenty of people still running monitors of that size. There are a few things that I'd personally like to see improved, but I'm guessing they're missing due to budget constraints, such as no visual feedback from ship incidents, while others make no sense whatsoever. The UI, for example, it's inexcusable, especially in a game such as this where the player will be spending more than half the time browsing through menus. It resembles some kind of weird Facebook game experiment that is completely out of place with the rest of the game's visuals. The audio is a plus for this game. Voiceovers are very well done, mostly the ship's announcer warning you of different events, ship incidents, and interactions to be had. The musical score is also of great quality and fits perfectly with the general atmosphere. It also changes depending on the sector threat level to give a sense of urgency via its more accelerated rhythm. With all this said and done, while this game offers a nice visual alternative compared to FTL, it falls behind in other features that make the latter fun, mostly gameplay related. It can be exciting to explore the world of Into the Stars for the first time, maybe even for a second one, but once you get past the nice visual presentation and figure out the general systems, the magic is mostly gone. I'm going to be giving this game a final score of 8 out of 10. Well, hope you enjoyed this review guys, and for more, don't forget to subscribe and check out at a later date. I'll see you next time.
Engines at full power. Command issue resolved. Command alert.